With this second pathway, we have broken it down into 3 sections, and we've called them Shu, Ha, and Ri. You remember from the first pathway, we introduced Shu Ha Ri, and it's the martial arts approach to obtaining mastery. So what we're doing is we are learning techniques, we are practicing those techniques, we are understanding those techniques, and we're building on the layers of what we're doing. Now, the reason for splitting these sections up, not because necessarily by the time we get to the end of this pathway we will be masters, although that is the intention. One of the things that we want to do is just to keep reminding ourselves that we are on a journey, that we are going through a process, and that we are constantly learning and moving forwards. So that's the reason why we've called it that. In order for us to get started then, let's just spend a few seconds going through the levels within Shu Ha Ri, just to remind ourselves of what we're looking to achieve. So with Shu then, the first thing that we've got Shu, Ha, and Ri, here we go. So the first thing that we do is we are following the rule. We're learning just one technique and making sure we get very good at that. So for example, Scrum, maybe it's Kanban, it doesn't really matter which of the frameworks you've chosen to start with, as long as you've picked one and you're really looking to get good at that, to understand it so that physically and mentally you know what it means. You follow the rules precisely and you focus on how to do it. Now, what you will find is probably something that we've all found is that that one technique is probably not going to be enough. It's going to be great. It's going to give you some really positive results, certainly to start with. But very soon you will get frustrated in that it doesn't seem to be doing everything that you wanted it to do. And that's where we want you to move as soon as you can up to Ha. This is where you're learning to bend the rule. So you become so familiar with it that you can bend it, but you're also now collecting more techniques. So you've learnt one, and now you're learning a second, maybe a third, even a fourth framework. And you're looking at what those things have in common, what's different, but you're applying what is relevant to you and your circumstances from each of the techniques that you're learning. And most importantly, at this point, you're really focusing more on the principles and on the theories rather than necessarily on the exact techniques, so that you are beginning to transcend the frameworks and transcend the rules. We're all learning from each other and we're integrating what we're learning into these processes. And if we do that enough, we start moving into the next section, the last element of Shu Ha Ri, which is Ri. This is where we start to become the rule. We've completely transcended. We maybe don't even know which rule we're using anymore, which framework we're following. We just have an instinct for it. It's part of our DNA. This is where we're blending rules and maybe even inventing new techniques to fulfill our objective, which is to have great outcomes. So we're learning now really from our own technique rather than from other people all the time, although we're still constantly interacting with each other and blending and mixing and matching, adapting to circumstances and doing what we can. So that's a concept that is worth holding in our minds as we're going through these levels, because sometimes when we're learning a new skill, a new technique, a new skill set, as we are with Agile, things can get a bit frustrating. Things suddenly stop working the way they were. And it's just important to remind ourselves that this is part of a journey, part of our pathway to get to where we want to get to. So if you're ready, I'm ready to get stuck right into pathway number 2.